All right, we are back after a week hiatus. You know, summer's just been really busy for us, so we haven't been able to record as much. But, you know, going forward after summer, I think we're going to go back to once a week.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, everybody knows that life has its obstacles, but I mean, at the end of the day, the goal is putting out as much content as possible. So.
Yeah, just trying to get it out there. But anyways, today is our Father's Day episode. Like with our Mother's Day episode, I think we're a week late.
Yeah.
But we are in the Father's Day mood. So I'm sure y'all all know Chris runs a nonprofit called Ripple Effect Fatherhood. You just kind of want to say what that is, a refresher?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ripple Effect Fatherhood is, like you said, a nonprofit organization that we started just really to create a community for fathers who are doing their best to provide a positive presence of fatherhood. And so right now we have a YouTube channel, so you can go on YouTube and check out Ripple Effect Fatherhood, where we just do one-on-ones with fathers and just talk about we talk about their struggles, but also about how they overcame those struggles and their take on fatherhood and what being a father means.
Yeah, little nuggets of wisdom, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so we thought it would be a good idea for Chris to come on and, you know, just share 5 pieces of advice from different fathers that he's gathered over these interviews.
Yeah. I'm excited to do so. But first off, definitely shout out to all the fathers that I've had the pleasure of interviewing, because like I told each one of you guys, like I'm at the very least being impacted by everything that we talk about, everything that I learn. And then, you know, with our organization, we always hope to impact at least one person out there, which I know we are. So shout out to all fathers that I've interviewed, and shout out to all fathers in general, right?
Yeah, shout out fathers. I mean, I think we need to shout out fathers more. You know, it's tough right now today, but, you know, just keep on shouting them out. Take pride in being a father too. You know, I feel like there's a lot of pride out there for mothers, and no question they should get it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Not dissing mothers, but, you know, let's honor our fathers too.
Yeah, and yeah, the importance of community in fatherhood is something that I'm learning day by day. Is that it's important to have other fathers to lean on in this journey called fatherhood.
For sure,
because it's a daily decision that you have to make that, hey, I'm going to be a present father. I'm going to provide a positive presence to the best of my ability. Yeah. And that's not always easy. We were just talking about how life throws obstacles and stuff like that. So fathers, like, the importance of community in fatherhood is up, like way up. You know what I mean? So yes, shout out fathers and shout out the community of fatherhood.
Well, let's get started. What's first?
Okay, all right. So the first nugget or the first piece of wisdom came from Mr. Adam Sanchez. He's actually a resident of Taylor, Texas. Great guy, volunteers a lot of his time to the community. And so definitely make sure you go check out his interview. But the nugget that I got from Adam, you ready for this?
Yeah.
This is huge, man. All right. He said, this is kind of what we talked about. He said, fatherhood is a puzzle that you are piecing together as you go. That's not word for word, by the way. But fatherhood is a puzzle that you are piecing together as you go. But love always fills that puzzle. Dude, listen, when I heard it, when we started talking about that, so the context behind that for everybody watching is we were talking about how we each didn't really have a father figure growing up. And so, or I'm sorry, I take that back. We didn't have our biological fathers growing up, but we had father figures.
Right.
And so the things that we learned as we grew up were kind of like when you're putting a puzzle together, you start with the outside pieces first. Right. To get those borders. And so what we kind of came up with is those border pieces are what we've learned from our father figures and mentors. And then when you start filling in the middle is what you're learning day by day in your own journey of fatherhood. And then that last piece is always, or not the last piece, but the pieces that you're filling in. And of course, the last piece, all that together is always love.
You know, and what I think is interesting is you shared, neither of you grew up with fathers. I feel like people who did grow up with fathers, they might have a few more pieces of the puzzle if they had a really positive father in their life, because they've seen someone exemplify and give them the pieces to that puzzle. Like for me, I draw about 90% of what I do off of my dad. I'm like, WWCD, what would Chris do?
Yeah.
So, but like you said, those missing pieces, you can fill them in with love. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, having your father present, it definitely, like you said, I think you get to see more of the love that plays in, because having a father figure, I mean, you have a mentor, but maybe you don't always like see where love ties in because it's not like your blood or something like that. I don't know, but yes, I mean, at the end of the day, like that. Shout out to Adam Sanchez.
Yeah, that's he was my youth soccer coach at one point. I don't know. Well, I don't know if he was a coach or I just played with his daughter. I know me and Ariana were on the same team.
Were you?
But yeah.
I'm sure he came out there and volunteered a few times.
Yeah. That's throwing it way back. I think he was the coach.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You have to ask him.
At the very least, he was there, man. Because, and real quick, shout out to him. That's something that I see in his because he's my neighbor, by the way. But I see him and his wife, and it's always nice to see that he's present at the kids' games. His current children, his children who are still living at home with them. He's at all their games, at all their events and stuff like that. So
just being present. Awesome. Yeah. Like my dad, I always say, and not everybody's blessed with the schedule that my dad had, being a business owner. But it'd be a 7th grade basketball game on a Tuesday at 3 p.m., 3 in the afternoon, 2 hours away, and my dad would be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just being present, man.
That's a big piece of fatherhood. And so I think that resonates with anybody, regardless of your culture, regardless of your background, whatever the case may be. Having that presence, if you are a father, and feeling that presence, it speaks volumes, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what's your next? Who's your next guy?
All right. It's funny that you said it that way, because my next guy is not a guy.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. The next one is from my mom, actually. So my second interview was with my mom, because she is someone who filled the fatherhood role in my life the best way that she could, because she had to, which a lot of single mothers do. So shout out to single mothers too. You know what? By the way, I always tell my mom Happy Father's Day on Father's Day.
Yeah.
Even though she's obviously not she's a woman and she's a mom, but I always tell her Happy Father's Day because she deserves recognition on that day, just like every other single mother out there doing it by themselves.
For sure.
But yes, very big piece of wisdom that I got from my mom, Rachel Cotto, by the way, let me throw her name out there, is to value the time that you have to be a parent. And really the context for that was something that I didn't know until I interviewed her, was that she had the opportunity to work 2 jobs. And honestly, like she worked one job and we still struggled, right? We grew up low income, right?
Right.
So another job probably would have, we still would have been low income,
right?
But maybe she would have had a little extra money or something like that. Either way, the point of that piece of wisdom is that she chose not to work 2 jobs in order to have more time to parent to me. And I think for all the parents out there that are watching, if you have the means to do so, of course, right? Because some people are in situations where, hey, like you have to work 2-3 jobs just to get by,
right?
But if you are doing that, any time that you have in between to parent, value that time.
Yeah, that's something. Maybe that's I think women see that more than men. So it's interesting that she said that, because my wife will tell me that all the time. I'm like, man, I can't wait for Alice to be like 4 and I can take her to get ice cream. And she's like, hey, why don't you just, and it's funny. She's like, why don't you just value what you got right now? Like, just love this moment because you're going to be missing it. And also with the whole job thing, that's another thing. I remember when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do for a living, I was talking to Pat. That's my father-in-law, Pat Kovar, about it. And I was like bouncing ideas off of him. And he said, you know what, Ryan, you can go make a lot of money as this or that, but you're going to be gone from home a lot. And he was like, there's an invaluable amount of money that, being home and being present in your kid's life is going to make up. You're going to be wishing you did that instead of making a bunch of money. So that's a good point.
Yeah, that's powerful. I just met a guy last week at Robinson Park when we were there on Tuesday. I think his name was Dustin. So if he's watching this, shout out Dustin, because he really said something that spoke volumes, which resonates with what you were just saying, which was I think he's a plumber, and he was saying when he worked for a specific company, he was gone a lot, but he was making good money. And he said now that he's working for a different company, he isn't making as much money. Things are tighter.
Right.
He's got multiple kids, but he said this is the happiest he's ever been.
Right.
Because of how much time he has to be with his kids and to bring his kids out to Robinson Park and stuff like. I was like, man, that hit me right there. Like, it was just normal. I just met the guy.
Right.
And that was huge, man.
Yeah,
So,
there's just something to where there's a trade-off where you can make more money, but you're going to be gone more. And if you can make it work with what you have, you might have to cut back. Like Ashley, she was doing hairdressing for a while, and she finally came to me and she was like, I just want to stay home, and here's some things I'll do to cut back so we can afford for me to stay at home.
Yeah.
And, it's been great.
Yeah.
But not everyone can do that, obviously.
Right.
But if you can, that's a great piece of advice.
Absolutely. And if you can't, definitely value the time that you do have. Right? So, huge. All right. Ready for the next one?
Yes, sir.
All right. Next one is from Mr. Ryan Schneider.
Oh, yeah.
So make sure y'all go check that interview out too. But this one
This
was
is going to be the best piece of advice. Just letting y'all know.
Hey, look, man. It was honestly though, it was really good. It was really good because I don't remember how we got on the topic. But whenever you said it, I was like, there was a few different meanings. But anyway, I'll get to the point. So you said that the mission field is always right in front of us. Not word for word, but that's what I took from it. So we started talking about, I think we started talking about, following God and doing God's work and being a disciple for Christ and stuff. And so the reason that this piece of advice really spoke to me and for all my fathers out there is because a lot of times, if you're anything like me, you start to ask yourself, like, what am I doing in this world? What's my purpose? Maybe I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I need to go out there and do this, and this.
It's restless.
Right?
Right.
And then we forget sometimes, like you said, that the mission field is always right in front of us. So if you are a father, God called you to be a father first.
Right.
Like, there's your first mission field. Take care of that. And then the Lord will put other opportunities for you to serve in other capacities. But don't forget your first mission, or one of your first missions, which is to be a father.
Yeah. I mean, when I said that, that's pretty much what I meant. Is the mission field's right in front of you. Grow your kids in the faith. Do devotionals at night. I was blessed to be raised that way, where we did like a family devotional every night. I think that's what's contributed to me being a strong Christian. And once you do that, also go out and be an example for your kid.
Yeah.
And that's another big point is your kids, and this is back from when Jacob preached. He's a youth pastor at our church. Okay. Your kids are taking in what you're doing like a sponge. And if they don't see you going out and discipling, living a Christian life, giving up your time, giving up your energy to disciple others and themselves, then they're going to fall away. You know what I mean? And sometimes they'll do that anyways. People are their own creatures. But I was always blessed to. We were the home that hosted small groups. You know what I mean? My mother-in-law, she's the one doing midnight basketball. So a lot of people in mentorship roles, including my parents and my father, just doing these things, and that's what I think back to when I'm sitting at home and I'm like, I don't really want to go out to midnight basketball, or I don't really want to go up to the church and do small groups, and I'm just tired. I'd rather just sit here and play Madden or 2K.
Yeah, right.
I think back to those moments, and I'm like, you know what? It's not about what you want. It's about the mission field. But yeah.
Man, hey, man. Huge. And, yeah, I think that just that, even that in itself, like volunteering and letting your kids see the example that you're setting. I mean, and I was there for that sermon that Jacob preached, and just the fact that he was talking about, like, it's more about it's more than what you say, you know. Like, people want to be led.
Yeah.
Kids want to be led.
And they see hypocrites.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's a couple people, and they're like, I can't believe my kid went off and they're not Christian anymore. I'm like, well, like, come on.
I know, right? That's no, and yeah, it's all about what they, like you said. I mean, that hypocrisy, it's hard to hide. You know, especially if it goes on in the home.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we definitely just encourage that the living part. Right? It's one thing to teach, but another thing to live it out.
Right.
Right. I think that's the best way to teach.
Yeah, live it out, to be an example. You know, because kids will see it.
Yeah.
And maybe even let your kids know, like, hey, I don't really want to be doing this.
Yeah.
But I feel called to do it. You know.
Yes. Openness and honesty about what you're feeling. You know what I mean? Man, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But no, perfect. Mission field, right? Make sure you go watch that interview for sure. All right, next one. Ready? By the way, these are all my notes.
Yeah.
So I take notes on every interview. So I have these little sticky notes for the piece of nugget. Everything else is just notes that I take every time we interview somebody. So the next one is from Coach Jandrin. And this one hit home for me because this guy was like, if you haven't watched that interview, definitely go watch that interview with Coach Jandrin, because he has made a difference in a lot of lives out there, a lot of young lives through basketball, through other things. But the way I know him is through basketball. He was my 8th grade travel basketball coach, taught me a lot, and was a huge father figure for me in that time of my life. And so a lot of credit goes to him for things that I've accomplished today and things that I feel today as far as belief in myself. But anyway, I had to give him a little shout out. But Coach Jay gave this great piece of advice, and honestly, it actually came from his mom. And so rest in peace to Coach Jay's mom, but thank you for this piece of advice, because it has made an impact on my life. But the piece of advice for fatherhood that came from Coach Jay's mom was, when you get frustrated, step aside, take a breath, and look at what God gave you. And so that right there, he was basically talking about patience, right?
Right.
Which is what we hear a lot when it comes to fatherhood and being a father. Oh, it's going to teach you patience. It's going to teach you. But the way he said it and the way he received it from his mom, I thought was it just spoke volumes, because kids are going to frustrate you. You know what I mean? Like, even at the youngest age, like, you don't want to get frustrated.
No.
But when you've been up all night and you're trying to feed them every 2 hours, and they won't go back to sleep, and then they're crying, you're not necessarily frustrated at them, but you're frustrated at the situation.
Right.
And so sometimes as fathers, when we get frustrated, at least for me, when we get frustrated at a situation, that frustration is projected onto the people involved.
Yeah,
right?
even like the tone you're speaking, like, ah.
Yeah, yeah. and Maddie, my wife, will be the first to tell you that I'm working on it, right? In a good way. But the part that says, look at what God gave you. Because when you get frustrated at your kids, and a lot of you who have, I've been hearing about the teenage years a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm kind of not looking forward to those. But a lot of you who have teenagers can probably relate to this very well. But that part where you step aside, take a breath, and then look at what God gave you, right? When you step out of that situation that brings that frustration to you, and you're able to look at that person that God gave you that was once a tiny little human being that you could just do nothing but smile at. You know what I mean? Now you can re-enter the situation and look for a different solution. You know, because it's not to say that you're just pushing the situation to the side and not going to deal with it. But when you find yourself frustrated, you come back, look at what God gave you, the gift God gave you, and now you can attack the situation differently.
Right. Kind of reevaluate and be like, okay, first I need to realize how lucky I am.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that kind of goes back to something my mom got from her grandma. And it's like, hey, be grateful for what you have because someone would give everything to trade with you. And, you know, I think of there. I have had the thought before where I was like frustrated and it was like midnight. And I was like, man, there's someone who would give everything to just have a healthy baby.
Yeah.
You know, to be at home with their baby. So
Yeah.
once you establish that, it's a little bit humbling too. And then you can be like, okay, you know, I'm a little bit frustrated, but maybe I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's definitely watch that interview because he was the passion that dude has, man. I mean, I used to just think it was basketball. Then I start talking about fatherhood, and I'm like, man, I don't know, he's just a passionate guy.
You're a passionate dude.
Yeah, yeah. Good old Coach J. And then, what is this? Is this number 5? This is the 5th one. All right, so the 5th one came from another Taylor native. His name is Eloy Rodriguez. And he's actually the barber of Loyalty's Barbershop out here. So a little plug in there.
Yeah, that's at Old Taylor High, right?
No, that one's actually on Lake Drive, right there by the donut shop.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. It's over there. He's got his own little spot back there in that big old parking lot by Dollar General.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, back in the back.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. But man, Eloy, this was if you're watching this, man, this was a great interview. Anybody who is watching this and hasn't watched his interview, definitely go back and watch it because we talk about how he had to overcome immediate struggles as a father. So his son, his first son, because he's got a stepson, but his first biological son was born with a heart defect.
Oh, wow.
And he had to have like immediate open heart surgery out of the womb. Dude.
It's funny. We were just talking about that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know. But and when I say I don't know, like the strength, man. I mean, but I think that this was great because the piece of advice that I got from Eloy was not word for word, of course, but trust God with your kids because those are his kids. And I was just like, because the way he said it was, he said he was worried. He was anxious, of course. Right. And you know, and the only thing he could do in that moment was talk to God.
Right.
And he said that he just felt the Lord say, well, hey, are those your kids or are those my kids? And I think I don't remember what it was. It was a certain situation. But anyway, that little saying right there, are those your kids or are those my kids?
Right.
And you know, it's crazy because I was just talking to a gentleman earlier today, and you know, they when it comes to parenting, I mean, especially our you know, young parents, we got to realize that we don't have all the answers. We're not going to be able to, like, there's a lot of life that we haven't even experienced yet.
Right.
You know? And so we got to realize that, hey, this isn't meant to be done on our terms. Like, we have to give our kids over to the Lord spiritually, trust God to take care of them spiritually, mentally, and all that, and use us to guide them along. You know?
Yeah, work through us to guide them along. And that's a really interesting point. I mean, kind of like what we were just talking about always having it better than someone. It's like, man, I can't even think about, having to deal with that and having to contemplate, am I going to lose my child? But I think there is some sort of refuge in being like, hey, you know what? If this happens, God's going to take care of them. Like that's his ultimate promise, is that you will be taken care of in the afterlife. Because if you're a kid, we theologians can debate if kids go to heaven, but I think that's a pretty common belief that they do.
Right.
So, there's some refuge in that, but goodness gracious.
Man, I mean, and I just thought that was such a great piece of advice, too, because, I mean, we're going to go through, I mean, he went through, his son having open heart surgery. I mean, even when it comes to, like, teaching your kid how to drive, and they get their license, and now they're driving on their own, and you're all worried and anxious, which we will be.
Oh, yeah.
But in those moments, we got to realize, I mean, it just, not even just those, every moment, like, those are God's kids,
right?
Because we know that we're children of God, and we want God to love us unconditionally and protect us in every situation and guard our spirits. And so we have to realize that, hey, just as we are His children, our children are His children. So I thought that was big time stuff.
That is, man. We got a lot of pieces of advice from that, man.
Dude, I got more, but we don't have the time.
We'll have to revisit this topic.
Yeah, that'd be great, because we're going to have some more fathers on, and we got another great interview coming we'll be posting it this Saturday, so I'm excited for that.
Nice, man. Well, be on the lookout for that. For this episode, I think that's going to wrap it up, but man, great pieces of advice. Like I said, if you're a father, like we said, be proud of it. We encourage you, and if you want a community of fathers, there's two right here. We're both the kind of guys, if you text us, we'll show up at your house.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's so important. And like you said, I mean, sometimes fathers don't get enough credit, or at least outwardly. And so, but we need that community where we can lean on each other. And so it's super important. Mental health of fathers is super important. Openness of fathers with other fathers is super
Openness
important.
Of your struggles.
Yes.
And even accountability partners. Yes. We talk about accountability partners with other things, but you need that in every area of your life.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, we'll see y'all next time.
All right. Happy Father's Day.